Welcome back to the Purple Political Breakdown. How's it going? How's your day been? Now, today, this is not going to be a long video. Don't you worry. I'm not going to react to the full thing. But as you guys can tell, this is going to be a showcase for a lot of y'all who have been seeing clips recently in regards to old presidential debates in comparison to the current one that is taking place right now. Now, I thought it would have been interesting to talk about not even older, like 4 years ago, Joe Biden versus now. And I think that's a very legitimate thing to bring up. But let's do McCain versus Obama. I'm going to show only like 10 minutes, and we're basically going to compare and contrast the differences between this presidential debate and our current version featuring Joe Biden and Donald Trump. So let's do it. Let's talk about it, and let's talk about the differences that we see. Let's dive right into it. And I'm going to just right here.
Greed and excess on Wall Street.
You go first.
Well, let me say, Bob, thank you, and thanks to Hofstra. And by the way,
The talking points. So let's try to tell the people tonight some things that they haven't heard. Let's get to it. Another very bad day on Wall Street, as both of you know. Both of you proposed new plans this week to address the economic crisis. Senator McCain, you proposed a $52 billion plan that includes new tax cuts on capital gains, tax breaks for seniors, write-offs for stock losses, among other things. Senator Obama, you proposed $60 billion in tax cuts for middle-income and lower-income people, more tax breaks to create jobs, new spending for public works projects to create jobs. I will ask both of you, why is your plan better than his?
Right off rip, and maybe this will change moving forward. This is the third presidential debate that I found. But right off rip, the way the question was framed really tells you what both representatives represent when it comes to their different positions, right? You were able to articulate both of their plans in regards to the economic situation, and you were able to see the differences between the plans. They had a plan, they were different, and they're about to talk about what makes theirs good. The difference between that and our current presidential debate that took place, the only person who had a plan, and I'm going to be honest, I'm not here to throw shade, but I'm just telling you what I see. The only people who have a plan when it came to these debates was Joe Biden and RFK Jr. And I'm going to throw RFK Jr. in there because he is the third candidate that should be discussed. But Joe Biden and RFK Jr. are the only two people who seem to have a plan. It's not just rhetoric and narrative. That Donald Trump doesn't ever have a plan when it comes to these conversations. So the fact that he was able to articulate that and goes like, this is what your plan is, why is this guy's better plan than the other? You can't do that in today's debate because only one guy has a plan. The other guy talks about narratives and rhetoric the entire time. So that's the first thing I noticed right off rip. Let's keep on going.
Senator McCain, you go first.
well, let me say, Bob, thank you, and thanks to Hofstra. And by the way, our beloved Nancy Reagan is in the hospital.
Also, I'm gonna point this out real quick as well. I doubt they're gonna touch upon this, but I saw this one clip, and this lady was talking ill will of Barack Obama, and McCain basically responded to the lady saying, "No, that's not how this works. I don't have this hatred for Obama. We just disagree vehemently in terms of how the country should run." There was a mutual respect and understanding between McCain and Obama versus nowadays it's ridiculous. And again, a lot of this has to play into how Trump does things. It's visceral, but it's not only Trump, because Joe Biden also hates on Donald Trump. Visceral hatred. And even RFK Jr., the way he talks about Trump and Biden, it's so absolutist in the sense that it's like, oh, if they do it, the country's ruined. It's the worst it's ever been. It's the best it's ever been. They're the reasons. They're complete the reasons why the country is in. These are horrible ways to speak about people who potentially could be president, because not only are you playing a stupid game and not providing the complete context on how a country is ran, but also if they are elected, you're already putting things in the forethought that the country will be the worst it's ever been and the worst it's going to be. It's very unprofessional. It's ridiculous. And these are grown men acting like children nowadays. So again, I have to point that out as well.
Tonight, our thoughts and prayers are going with you. It's good to see you again, Senator Obama. Americans are hurting
Imagine
right
one
now,
of
and
them
they're angry.
saying, "It's good to see you again."
They're hurting and they're angry. They're innocent victims of greed and excess on Wall Street and as well as Washington, D.C. And they're angry, and they have every reason to be angry. And they want this country to go in a new direction. And there are elements of my proposal that you just outlined, which I won't repeat. But we also have to have a short-term fix, in my view, and long-term fixes. Let me just talk to you about one of the short-term fixes. The catalyst for this housing crisis was the Fannie and Freddie Mae that caused the subprime lending situation that now caused the housing market in America to collapse. I am convinced that until we reverse this continued decline in home ownership and put a floor under it, and so that people have not only the hope and belief.
It's funny, there's two things I want to point out. It's interesting how the Americans are always suffering every single year since like the dawn of everything. It's like the Americans are never doing well. We're always suffering, and that's kind of it's a very dire way to look at humanity, and the idea that we are always suffering, even though America, in terms of technology and what things we have so much to gain in our current generation, and we can enjoy life in so many different avenues. But it's just they're always suffering, right? But that's a conversation for a different day. The other thing that I want to point out is that the housing market crash has been an issue since this is a 2008 presidential debate. So that's very interesting.
They can stay in their homes and realize the American dream, but that value will come up. Now, we have allocated $750 billion. Let's take 300 of that billion and go in and buy those home loan mortgages and negotiate with those people in their homes, 11 million homes or more, so that they can afford to pay the mortgage, stay in their home. Now, I know the criticism of this. Well, what about the citizen that stayed in their homes, that paid their mortgage payments? It doesn't help that person in their home if the next door neighbor's house is abandoned. And so we've got to reverse this. We ought to put the homeowners first, and I am disappointed that Secretary Paulson and others have not made that their first priority.
All right. Senator Obama.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Hofstra University and the people of New York for hosting us tonight, and it's wonderful to join Senator McCain again, and thank you, Bob. I think everybody understands at this point that we are experiencing the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression, and the financial rescue plan.
All right, we are back. My apologies. I didn't have my headset on, so there was a bit of an echo in the first bits, but I didn't want to cut it out because I already talked about a few things. So we're going to continue the wave. If you stuck by, I really do appreciate you. Consider subscribing to the channel. We're almost at 500. But with that said, let's continue.
That Senator McCain and I supported is an important first step. And I pushed for some core principles, making sure the taxpayers can get their money back if they're putting money up, making sure that CEOs are not enriching themselves through this process. And I think that it's going to take some time to work itself out. But what we haven't yet seen is a rescue package for the middle class, because the fundamentals of the economy were weak even before this latest crisis. So I've proposed 4 specific things that I think can help. Number one, let's focus on jobs. I want to end the tax breaks for companies that are shipping jobs overseas and provide a tax credit for every company that's creating a job right here in America. Number two, let's help families right away by providing them a tax cut, a middle-class tax cut for people making less than $200,000, and let's allow them to access their IRA accounts without penalty if they're experiencing a crisis. Now, Senator McCain, I agree with your idea that we've got to help homeowners. That's why we included in the financial package a proposal to get homeowners in a position where they can renegotiate their mortgages. I disagree with Senator McCain in how to do it, because the way Senator McCain has designed his plan, it could be a giveaway to banks if we're buying full price for mortgages that now are worth a lot less, and we don't want to waste taxpayer money. And we've got to get the financial package working much quicker than it's been working. Last point.
What I really like in this debate, and man, this is crazy, right? Is that they are diagnosing each other's arguments. He's looking at his argument saying, I disagree here. This is not how I would approach it. This is what is wrong. Like, it is a legitimate debate, but it's also relaying information in the proper way to the people. It's actually ridiculous how professional, how fluent, how everything they are talking about is in the best interest of America. Whether you think badly or goodly of McCain or Obama, purely based off the debate themselves, the structure, the way they present themselves, it's night and day. But the unfortunate part is that people don't like this because it's not entertaining. People are turning politics into a entertainment shit show. And it's the best way I can put it is it's immature. It's makes me a little black-pilled sometimes in people's capacity to really try to make a better society. They get influenced so easily by some of the dumbest things. And then when we do have people who actually want to improve the country, who actually want to progress things forward and provide solutions, those don't appeal to them. It's not entertaining. It doesn't scream. I mean, TikTok is a perfect analogy of this. It's a perfect metaphor of this. The short-term content of doing some of the most ridiculous things possible to get an extra click, extra view. You need to be as wild as possible, as controversial as possible to get people's attention. It's disheartening because I was too young to really care about this presidential debate. I was probably, this is 2008, 24, so that was like 16 years ago, right? So I would have been 10. I would have been 10 years old. Why would I care about a presidential debate at 10 years old? But it never seemed like people cared about the presidential debate. From my perspective of a 10-year-old child, the only thing that people cared about when it came to this debate is Barack Obama's black. That's it. But we'll listen to a few more minutes and then...
point I want to make, though. We've got some long-term challenges in this economy that have to be dealt with. We've got to fix our energy policy that's giving our wealth away. We've got to fix our healthcare system, and we've got to invest in our education system for every young person to be able to learn.
All right. Would you like to ask him a question?
No. I would like to mention that a couple of days ago, Senator Obama was out in Ohio, and he had an encounter with a guy who's a plumber. His name is Joe Wurzelberger. Joe wants to buy the business that he's been in for all these years. Worked 10, 12 hours a day. And he wanted to buy the business, but he looked at your tax plan, and he saw that he was going to pay much higher taxes. You were going to put him in a higher tax bracket, which was going to increase his taxes, which was going to cause him not to be able to employ people, which Joe was trying to realize the American dream. Now, Senator Obama talks about the very, very rich. Joe, I want to tell you, I'll not only help that you buy that business that you worked your whole life for and I'll keep your taxes low, and I'll provide available and affordable health care for you and your employees, and I will not stand for a tax increase on the small business income. 50% of small business income taxes are paid by small businesses. That's 16 million jobs in America. And what you want to do to Joe the plumber and millions more like him is have their taxes increased.
So here's a strategy that is consistently used, and it's used like a lot even nowadays, is appealing to the individual, really grabbing a personification of an average American citizen and really resonating immediately in terms of the conversations being held, because it seems to be held directly to you. So this is a strategy that's been used for a very, very, very long time. So this is not surprising.
And not be able to realize the American dream of
that
owning
what
their
you
own
wanna do?
business.
It's not
That's what
I
Joe
want.
believes.
He's been watching some ads of Senator McCain. So let me tell you what I'm actually going to do. I think tax policy is a major difference between Senator McCain and myself.
And he's still able to joke about it too, because he threw a little jab there, but it's still professional. It's still,
We both want to cut taxes.
formal.
The difference
I
is
think
who
that's the
we
better
want to
term.
cut taxes for. Now, Senator McCain, the centerpiece of his economic proposal is to provide $200 billion in additional tax breaks to some of the wealthiest corporations in America. ExxonMobil and other oil companies, for example, would get an additional $4 billion in tax breaks. What I've said is I want to provide a tax cut for 95% of working Americans. 95%. If you make less than $250,000 a year, then you will not see your income tax go up, your capital gains tax go up, your payroll tax, not one dime. And 95% of working families, 95% of you out there, will get a tax cut. In fact,
I think that's all we need to see. I mean, this is back in 2008, so what they're saying is not really important today, technically, even though a lot of it may have value in terms of how our current system should or should not be ran. But with that said, this is just me showcasing you an example of a prior presidential debate. I think this will provide a lot of context on the difference between 2008, which was 16 years ago, versus 2024. And I can say with 100% certainty, from my personal perspective, I prefer this style 10 times out of 10 than our current style. But with that said, let me know what you guys think about it. Of course, let me know your thoughts about the debate from this. You guys can watch the full debate if you really wanted to yourself. But with that said, appreciate y'all. Subscribe to the channel, almost at 500 if I'm not already. You have a good one. Take care and peace.